China and Guyana signed a joint declaration to expand bilateral cooperation. The deal that got inked earlier today focuses on trade, investment, infrastructure, energy and agriculture. On his visit to Beijing, Guyanese president had reiterated support for the One China policy. He also affirmed China proposed initiatives including the Belt and Road, and the two countries will also boost cooperation in culture and education. The Guyanese top leader is on a stay in China till the 1st of August. It's been over 3 weeks since China climbed checks on Japanese food over radiation concerns. This after Tokyo released the Fukushima water despite facing resistance from neighbors, including China. Now the Japanese restaurants in China are facing a deficit of both customers and seafood. According to reports, some of the restaurants that have taken the hit have lost 90% of their customer base. And amid this, China still remains Japan's biggest seafood export market. However, posts and hashtags calling Japanese food radioactives are rife on Chinese social media. Now, earlier in the day, Saudi Arabia's defense minister met his Japanese counterpart. The meeting follows Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's visit to Saudi Arabia to strengthen bilateral ties. Riyadh's defense minister attended a guard of honor ceremony ahead of the bilateral meeting at Tokyo's defense ministry. A man in China was rescued by firefighters after being stuck in his car amid strong gushing waters. The man was seen trapped in his car, which was rolling down a flooded river. The harrowing visuals from the state media also shows other cars submerged in the brimming waters. Typhoon Doksuri is one of the strongest storms to hit China in years and caused widespread flooding across regions. The violent waters have driven hundreds of thousands of people from their homes. The US biomedical industry is adopting new standards to protect a primordial sea animal, the horseshoe crab. It is considered to be a linchpin of the production of vital medicines. Drug and medical device makers are dependent on the valuable blue blood of the crab to test for potentially dangerous impurities. The animals are caught, drained, and some of their blood is returned to the environment, but many die from the bleeding. The new guidelines are expected to give the crab that are bled a better chance of surviving. But conservationists worry that the new approach still doesn't go far enough in protecting horseshoe crabs that also act as food for a declining bird species. The Antarctic sea ice has fallen to unprecedented lows. According to experts, at least 25% of the West Antarctic ice sheet is thinning, and more than 100 meters of ice thickness has disappeared in the worst hit locations. Now, experts are also adding that some of the glaciers in the area are already past the halfway point of melting, exposing them to relatively warm ocean water. And both the extent and concentration of Antarctic sea ice have dropped to record lows midway through the southern hemisphere. Typhoon Doksuri continues to wreak havoc as northern China braces for potential floods. Large areas have been affected by heavy downpours despite the typhoon being downgraded to a tropical storm. As Doksuri headed inland, mountain torrents were seen in the suburbs southwest of Beijing. Now, Beijing's meteorological service has issued a red alert, the country's highest alert level for rainstorms. Tourist spots have been shut down in Beijing and several flights have been cancelled across Chinese cities. Environmental campaigners in southwest Turkey are protesting in a forest against the cutting of trees to make way for a coal mine's expansion. Clashes erupted between villagers protesting deforestation in Turkey's Muğla province and the security forces last week. Protesters were heard chanting the slogans, and I'm quoting here, "We will rise, we will win." As per reports, at least 14 people were detained in the clashes. Armored vehicles, water cannons, security forces were deployed to block protesters from entering the woodland in Muğla province. Activists said that police fired tear gas to disperse them. In a bid to keep the environment clean, the Biden administration plans to boost fuel efficiency standards. In the latest move, the U.S. government plans to hike fuel efficiency standards by 2032 to 58 miles per gallon. Now, this will be done in a bid to cut greenhouse gas emissions and reduce fuel usage. As per a media report, the new proposal would save vehicle owners in 2032 about $1,043 per vehicle in fuel costs. But this would also increase average vehicle costs by $932. In a significant move towards tackling climate change, banks worldwide are working to develop global standards for accounting carbon emissions in bond or stock sale underwriting. However, there is discord over how much these emissions banks should attribute to their carbon footprint. The decision has raised concerns among environmental advocates who argue that banks should assume full responsibility for emissions generated by activities financed through bonds and stock sales. That's similar to the banking system's current practice with loans. Manufacturing activity in China contracted in July as export orders shrank. Now, this will add pressure on the ruling Communist Party to reverse an economic slowdown. A Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, improved to 49.3 from June's 49 on a 100-point scale. But that is still below the 50-point level that shows activity contracting. Weak demand has contributed to the ongoing contraction in the output. Demand for Chinese exports weakened after global interest rates were raised to cool inflation. At home, consumers are uneasy about possible job losses and are putting off big purchases. In a bid to safeguard the nation's rice stocks, Philippine president has expressed concerns over the potential impact of El Niño's dry weather on local harvests. Now, President Marcos, who also holds the position of Agriculture Secretary, highlighted the urgency to secure rice supplies. The Philippines, known as one of the world's largest rice importers, has traditionally relied on its neighbor Vietnam for the staple grain. However, President Marcos acknowledged that supply from Vietnam might become limited as other buyers flood the market. In the face of such uncertainty, he turned his attention to India, considering the possibility of striking a supply deal. In a game-changing move, retail giant Walmart solidifies its position in India's e-commerce landscape with a groundbreaking $1.4 billion deal. The news broke as the Wall Street Journal reported that Walmart has successfully bought out hedge fund Tiger Global's investment in the popular e-commerce firm Flipkart. Walmart's involvement with Flipkart began back in 2018 when the retail giant acquired a substantial 77% stake for a whopping $16 billion. Now, with this latest buyout, Walmart strengthens its grip on the thriving Indian e-commerce ecosystem. The transaction also marks Tiger Global's exit from Flipkart as the hedge fund bid farewell to their 4% stake in the company. Now, in a bid to revolutionize transportation and foster international connections, Israel has announced a groundbreaking $27 billion rail expansion project. This ambitious venture, known as the One Israel project, seeks to bridge the gap between outlying areas and metropolitan Tel Aviv, making travel faster and more efficient. What sets this plan apart is its far-reaching potential. With an eye on forging new diplomatic ties, the rail expansion could lay the groundwork for overland links between Israel and Saudi Arabia.